Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. My name is Nimish Radu, and I'm your host. I always love starting every episode by saying thank you. I feel so blessed with this podcast, the impact it has, the people it reaches. I started as a passion project, and I love where it's got to. I love the impact it has. I feel so very blessed. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. Thank you for your support. If you're new, welcome. If anyone has any feedback, any ideas on what we should do differently, or maybe topics we should cover, we're always open to feedback. And I am an Akashic record reader, Akashic trainer, podcast host, podcast creator, as well as a spiritual coach and mentor. What I love doing is guiding people to themselves, really helping you to understand your programming, really getting back to your core. And I do that through spiritual mentorship program that me and Stacey channeled through the Akashic Records, which is so beautiful. Other mentorship styles too, as well as Akashic record reading and this podcast, full moon webinar. So many different ways we get to guide people. And if my voice resonates, if our voice resonates, book a free discovery call. Both links to book my discovery call or with me and Stacey are in the show notes. So this podcast won't be where it is today without my stunning co-host introducing the amazing, the stunning, the healer extraordinaire, Stacey Brown. I've got to do it.
Thanks, buddy. It's good to be back. I'm grateful to be here for another episode. I feel so honored that we get to use our voices to make an impact. And knowing that we have so many listeners just really touches my heart. So thank you. If you've been listening for a while, we're grateful to have you. If you're just joining us for the first time, welcome to this space. My name is Stacey. I'm an intuitive. I do readings for people from around the world. I too am an Akashic record reader and a spiritual coach and mentor. And I have a book that I published called Journey to Soul Center, Discovering the Gift of Surrender. And it's available on Amazon and Audible. Really looking forward to this conversation, Nims, especially since we've tried a couple of times to make this happen.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? And I was thinking about that today. It's just, is there a message that we should record something different? And I kind of came to the conclusion that, one, the energy is really intense right now, and I guess the universe is testing us. And two, that, we've got to be consistent. We've got to keep showing up. We've got to, and so just so everyone knows, this is the third attempt at recording this one. Stacey's had Wi-Fi issues at her end for the last couple of times, to the point where she's now recording from a different location. So thank you for that, Stacey. And so the topic today, which feels really appropriate for the current energy, is when healing changes your personality. And for me, we've kind of come into the end of that phase of completion where we've all felt like we're in some kind of holding pattern. We're kind of moving into a phase of new beginnings, but that still feels like we're in this void where whatever we're creating, whatever our new life's going to be, isn't ready yet, and we don't belong in our old life anymore. And we've done so much healing, so much karmic release over the years that we've changed so much. And do we recognize this version of ourselves? So that's what we're going to dive in today, is when healing changes your personality. I mean, change is the only constant, so we're always changing. But what impact does healing have? And I guess the first clue is always, how do people react to you? Because sometimes you can't recognize how you change, and the universe gives you clues. I mean, I'm always going to recommend to you that you should spend time with you, get to know you, have a conversation with yourself in the mirror, and really kind of connect to you. But when you've done a lot of healing work, people start to recognize and shift changes in you. Things like you're quieter than you used to be, and things like that. And yeah, I mean, we'll dive into it, but you are quieter when you've done some healing, not because you haven't got as much to say. It's because you're only going to speak when you've got things to say. And, things like the old version of you is kind of easier to love for other people because, again, the old version of you would probably prioritize everybody else over you. So when you start doing the healing work and you start to prioritize you, people notice you've changed. And some people embrace that in your world. Other people may react differently. So, but Stace, how do you feel about this topic? I remember when we first recorded and I asked you this question, I hadn't really thought about it in that kind of way, right? So I'm curious, and now you've had time to process a couple of times. How does that feel? How do you feel about all the healing work you've done? And I've seen so much shift in you and how it's kind of affected your personality.
It's so interesting that we've had so many issues recording and getting to this point because I think I've had to have a little bit of time to sit with this. So for those who don't know, while I was waiting on my visa, thinking I was moving to the UK, I started doing hair again, just part-time to get out of the house and keep myself as busy as possible. So I'm still doing healing work. I'm still doing mentorship and coaching and readings, but I decided to do some hair. And not that long ago, I signed on with a local salon, and I thought I was making the right decision. I thought, I'm going to keep doing hair. It's extra income. I'm a single mom. Like, this will be a good thing. And I really tried to make it work. And for a variety of reasons, it didn't. But I realized that the dynamic there was quite unhealthy between me and one of the people I was working with. And I let it go on for months, trying to make it work, giving it my best effort, doing everything I could. And I had this epiphany that it wasn't working. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is because I think that I had another layer of healing that I needed to do in order to recognize that the environment wasn't a healthy one for me. And when I made that decision, I shifted into more of a place of power. I had been cowering to someone. I had been like bending over backwards for someone. I had been identifying with a tender part of my personality. And I'm not saying that that part of my personality is gone necessarily. I think I still have that. But I definitely think that this situation changed me and changed how I'm interacting with this person now. So after I left, there was another interaction where the person reached out to me and said this, this, and this. Me, not in the healed phase that I feel like I've come to, would have cowered to that message and done what was asked of me and kind of bent over backwards again. But in this season of my healing, I recognize how unhealthy that is. That my voice matters, that my career matters, that how I handle things matters to me. And I'm seeing this other person being very resistant to that. And so I'm using this as an example because I think that when we heal, when we're on our healing journey, we tend to stand more in our power and advocate for ourselves more. And I think a lot of times when we're unhealed and we're in that toxic space from whatever we've been through, sometimes we can be really passive and not advocate for ourselves and not stand up for ourselves and not be our biggest ally. And I think it's really important to think about how you've changed and shifted on your healing journey. Like, do you stand up for yourself more? Do you feel like you have a voice? It's interesting because recently I've seen a lot of people on the Reiki table who have had a closed throat chakra. And that's from not speaking your truth. And I think when we're in that space and we're not speaking our truth, I think we can be passive and maybe not even show the best parts of our personality. And I feel like for me, Nims, I'm seeing a shift in myself right now as I uncover this next layer, that I can't just live or operate in a space of making other people happy, that I have to do what feels right for me. And not everybody's going to be on board with that. I think that's the hard part to accept, that
Yeah.
not everybody's going to be on board.
And the question is, do they need to be, right? That's always the, I always love the line, what other people think of you is none of your business, right? And the second line that comes to mind is, are you willing to disappoint another to be true to yourself? And sit with that for a second. Are you willing to disappoint another to be true to yourself? Because this is exactly what we're talking about. Healing does change your personality, and actually how you interact with people, the boundaries you set, it has a big impact. Because all of a sudden you do find your voice. All of a sudden you do realize that actually putting you first is important. And if other people don't like it, then that's not on you. And the reality is, the old version of you, people are used to. Stacey talked about it, right? The version of her that used to, cower to everybody else. In many ways, she's still there somewhere, I guess, but she's less present. And the other thing you talked about was, I feel like we're in a state where we're in a phase now where aligned actions are really important. And you making that decision to go into the hairdressing and be in a salon and all that sort of stuff. Now that's not for you. So it's like you didn't make a mistake. Actually, you made aligned action, but now you've got so much more clarity from that aligned action. And again, that's what healing does. It doesn't mean just because you've done lots of healing, all of a sudden everything's going to go amazingly, because you've still got to grow. You've still got to have that human experience. But ultimately, you become less emotionally available for chaos. It's that, when you do the self-care, when you do the healing, you find a calmness inside you, which allows you to react differently. Actually, you not even react, you respond instead of reacting. Reacting is primal, right? Somebody does something to you, you get attacked. You either defend or you attack back. It's primal. It's a reaction. But again, when you've done the healing, you respond instead of react. You pause. You present. But again, how other people react to you changing is not on you. And this is where it gets difficult. You've been doing healing, your personality is changing, people are like, you're changing, you're not the same, you're quieter. They're used to you falling over backwards for them, and you're not doing that anymore. And it's like, sometimes the old version of you creeps back. And why does it creep back? As humans, we have two basic human needs. One is we want to be loved, and two, we want to avoid pain. And actually the need to avoid pain is actually stronger than the need for love, ironically. But that's what drives us. That's what drives our programming. That's why we put everybody else first, because we want to be loved and we don't want to cause pain. But if we do that at our own expense, who is that helping? This is what I feel like this energy, which is why this topic's so appropriate. I feel like the universe is pushing, as Stacey was saying, to speak our truth and to shine our light, to stand in our power and do the healing. And because the other thing that happens, and I was actually talking to some clients about it today, when we do this healing, we start really working on ourselves, what happens is we raise our vibration. And when we raise our vibration, we give others the opportunity to do the same. Now, in some relationships, you'll inspire other people to raise their vibration to be within your vibration. But others, you start to drift away. That's why you find that when you do a lot of healing and some relationships just fall away, others become stronger. And, the two areas of, I guess, relationships that are really interesting is one, blood family dynamics. Because I always remind you, right, your soul picks your family to expand you, to teach you, not to love you. And that's difficult. I know that triggers some people because, we expect our parents to love us. We expect our siblings because it's in our programming. And in many ways, we go searching for it all our life, hoping, wishing, there's some part of us hoping that something somewhere is going to change. But here's the thing: when you do the healing work, you're raising your vibration. So in many ways, energetically, you're becoming even more distant. And this is where it's important you take your power back. The second type of relationship is definitely the personal relationship, especially romantic partners. Because again, when you start, you're aligned. But as you start to grow and shift, you start to drift. But as you raise your vibration, the people in your life can raise. But if they don't, then you can't hold on to them because you're not here to fix people. And the thing is, if you keep them in your world, then you have to lower your vibration to be with them. And actually, what you're doing is you're causing yourself more pain. And I don't necessarily mean all of a sudden you need to cut everyone out of your life, but you do have to take your power back. And what that means is setting boundaries. Not feeling guilty for changing, not feeling guilty for doing the healing work. Don't be in situations, conversations that you don't thrive in anymore. Sometimes you outgrow those that a certain time of humor, a certain type of locations, conversations, environments, and be okay with that. Be comfortable spending time with yourself. Because if you don't enjoy spending time with yourself, why is anyone else going to enjoy it? And Stace, we've talked about this many times, not just in this episode, which we recorded 3 times, but just generally the healing and the impact it's had on our relationships. How many people have left our lives? It's just as we've done this healing work. And I love the phrase that, God clears my path because he hears the conversations people have about me behind my back. So I truly believe that those people that are meant to be on my path will find me. And those that, I've come to an end will leave. And this is where the phrase reason, season, life, right? People come into your life for a reason. Learning, experience, expansion, or it could be a season. And they walk along you in this season, or it could be life. And by the way, what does life really mean, right? Because life could mean, because we go through so many rebirths, it could be a longer season of your life. It could also be multiple lives. So, but it's the acceptance that once you raise your vibration, those people that are meant to be in your world will stay. And those that are meant to leave will leave. I mean, I had an example of an old friend trying to reach out to me just a couple of days ago. And, the way that friendship split was she abused a boundary. And I was very clear about it at the time. And it's not like I don't forget, but I feel the person's energy and the vibration, it's like, if it doesn't feel right, I say no. And actually, I was talking to a client about it earlier today about, if it's not, I'm going to swear now, trigger warning, I guess, but I can't remember which way around it is. If it's not a fuck yes, it's a hell no, or either way around, whichever works. But it's like, when you do this healing work, I mean, so many messages I'm getting recently, we've got to listen to our physical body. So when I talk about aligned actions, listen to your physical body. You're taking an action. How does it make you feel? How do you feel inside? And if it doesn't give you a really light feeling, an excited feeling, then don't do it. And sometimes what happens is your intuition gives you a gives you that excitement, but then your ego kicks in over the top. So, but yeah, I mean, Stacey, I can talk about this topic for hours. I'm curious, how has the working on you and doing the healing impacted your relationships?
It's changed so much in my life, I think, and really significant relationships. And by the way, I've seen this with clients that I've worked with where they have been married when we started working together and they start uncovering the layers of who they are, and their partner is not willing to do the same, and the relationship falls apart. But for me, I mean, I've lost my marriage. I was on my healing journey in a separate way than he was, and we went our separate ways. And I've seen that with friendships, I've seen that with business relationships. And it is sad when it happens, because when we meet people, we don't think about them not being around and not being in our lives. But I know that I'm being true to myself, and I know how important that is for me. And I know that I want to be the healthiest version of myself. And I couldn't do that in the environment that I was in. And so I had to make the changes and allow those relationships to fall away. And it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. My friends, I don't want to simplify this so much that we downplay the significance of it, right? It's hard to let people go. But what would the cost be to keep them around? Who do you have to morph and become in order to make those relationships work? Whereas if you're being true to yourself, how does it feel to show up in the world and have authentic relationships? I mean, yes, my personality has changed, and pretty significantly, to be honest. I mean, significantly. A lot of people have fallen away, a lot. But the people that are close to me love, know, and accept me for who I am. And they're willing to allow me the space to grow. And I think that's when you know that you have beautiful connections, is when people are willing to bend and adjust as you grow and heal. And for me, this has been bittersweet, because I love this version of me more, because she is healing and she is doing the work. But there is sadness in some of the relationships that I've lost. Do you feel that way?
I mean, I do. Of course, I miss people. But it's interesting when you say, you've lost. And I mean, like I said, a couple of things have come up this just past week about, old friendships and recent friendships that, I don't feel as close to anymore. It's just, I don't know if I miss those relationships, but sometimes the spiritual journey can definitely be lonely. It can definitely be isolating. For example, I don't feel that some friends, family avoid me on purpose, but I kind of know that if I'm going to talk to somebody and if they're going through something, I'm going to feel it. It doesn't mean they have to share, but I will give them the space to share. And it's like some people want to hide in their pain, want to hide in their, and they kind of know that, if they want to run from whatever's happening, then I'm going to speak my truth. And it's not like I'm quieter, but when I speak, I've got something to say. But I also know that I'm really good at holding space. So, when somebody's ready to share, I'm there. And so it's like, I feel like people come into my life at divine timing. Like I said, can it be lonely? 100%. I mean, I have some beautiful friendships around me. I have some, I mean, in States, even though you're in a different country, right? We connect every day, right? So, um, but do I sometimes wish I had more of those deeper spiritual relationships? Yeah, I do. Um, I've got some amazing clients. Um, but majority of the time I'm holding space for other people rather than anyone holding space for me. And again, I thought about it. Do I allow people to do it? I feel like I do. Um,
You do.
but at the same time, I am who I am. It's like, I went to Mind Body Spirit show, the one the biggest in biggest spiritual event in the UK today, and I met some people there, and I somehow knew I was meant to meet them there, and kind of have an open, and I enjoy having deep conversations, but again, it tends to be about the other person. Again, that's okay. This is what happens on this healing journey. You become more aware. People get attached, addicted to your energy in some kind of way because they can feel your energy at a soul and a heart level. They can feel your energy differently. So there is a lot of beauty with doing this healing journey, but like I said, sometimes it can feel isolating. You do, like I said, you speak only when you got something to say. It feels like you're quieter. But it's like in conversations, the way I like to think about it is I've got two ears and one mouth. I like to listen and speak in that proportion. Because people, maybe not at a human level, but at a soul and heart level, people realize if you're present in a conversation. If you're talking and let's say you're thinking about what you're going to have for dinner, or even if you're thinking about how am I going to respond to this person, you're not present in the conversation. And at some level, the other person realizes. So active listening, where you're present and you work out how to respond from the heart after they're finished, people recognize it. Try it. And at this juncture, I want to ask all our listeners, how do you feel like healing's changed your personality? How do you feel about the people that have left your path? We've done lots of topics on things like, kind of how isolating spiritual journey can be, but also what are the beautiful things that have happened to you because you've done the healing work? What's your connection with the energies and vibrations? Do you feel connected to nature? Do you speak your truth more? Are you conscious about the boundaries you set? And actually, even that's an important point, right? There's a big difference between setting strong boundaries and emotionally shutting down. Because sometimes we set boundaries in place because, like I said, sometimes we know that the other person's gonna call you out. So if you have people in your life that raise your vibration, that hold your space, but actually speak their truth and call you out, and in a nice, loving way, then don't cut them out. Allow them in your space. Set boundaries, of course, but don't emotionally shut down. And why do people say you've changed? Because you have. Because they're not used to you putting you first. It's different. So, Stace, how often do you hear that? Stace, you've changed. You're different. You're not like you used to be. How does that make you feel?
I mean, I think that I hear it from some people, but I think that the people who fall away, and the people that surround me support me. And I think it's important, like, I feel for my part in this conversation, I've been focused on like what I've lost, but I think it's really important to think about what you gain when your personality changes and you shift into that next layer of your healing journey. And there is so much to gain because I feel like with each lesson, I like gain more confidence in my voice. With each experience, I'm gaining more wisdom and knowledge. And there's something to be said for that. There's something to be said for the power of that yes, there can be loss when your personality changes through healing, but what are you gaining? Maybe you're gaining a stronger sense of self. Maybe for the first time in your life, you have self-esteem and self-worth. And what a beautiful thing to be in that space. And if it does change you, is it drawing people to you that are more aligned with this version of you? Because it's crazy. I think about like when you and I met, Nims, and how much pain I was still in from everything that happened with my son. And we really bonded like from the very beginning. And I'm just so grateful for this connection because I feel like we challenge each other to grow and to heal. And we're accepting of each other's personalities because we want to be the best version of ourselves for ourselves and for each other. And I think when you have those kinds of connections, even if you don't have a lot of them, there's a lot of power in that, of having people that see you and respect you and know you and understand you. It's just, I wouldn't trade this healing for anything, even if it changes who I am. I want to be on that path at all times where I'm moving in a direction of what is good for me and what is healthy for me, and working through trauma and pain and heartbreak that I've been through. I want, if it's going to change my personality, I really believe it's going to be for the better because the healing is for the better. Does that, I mean,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's interesting. Does that old version of you even exist? The one that you feel like you may miss, and just this healing journey. You said it earlier. I'm quite conscious that sometimes we make it sound easy. It's not easy. It may be simpler than we make it. I work on yourself, do the work, kind of do the inner child work, kind of. Sometimes I feel like we complicate life, but we would never say it's easy. I mean, because people do live your life. Like we said earlier, it can feel lonely, but to Stacey's point, I won't change it either. I mean, the work I get to do, the people I get to meet, the conversations that we have on this podcast, and the healing I get to do, the connection with my guides, I won't change that for anything. Kind of the relationships I have with souls that have departed this realm, I wouldn't be able to do that if I had this healing journey. So there's so much beauty, but again, what do you want to focus on? Do you want to focus? It's like sometimes we miss that old version of ourselves because maybe it was simpler times. People around us were more accommodating because we were doing everything for them. And when you start prioritizing yourself, it makes other people feel uncomfortable. And that's for one or two reasons. One, they lack the old version of you that was doing everything for them. And two, you're shining a light. You may be making them see that they're not doing the work on themselves. And this is the journey. This is what we've been saying is sometimes I don't feel like we have a choice. Especially now, I feel like the universe is pushing us to shine our light. And the more we hold on to that old version of ourselves, the more we're gonna suffer. That's why I love the phrase "pain is inevitable, suffering is optional." The pain helps us grow. But this journey right now and everything we've been through, that is really, really interesting. If you just take a step back and just look in the mirror and say, how much have you grown? What are the magic that because it's like Stacey mentioned earlier too, we focus on the pain sometimes, especially on this healing. And it's like we focus on, oh, I've got to do this course, I've got to do that course, sometimes you just got to breathe. Be present. And listen to your body, listen to what's happening. Because your nervous system change. And because the other thing is you don't tolerate certain energy. Part of my language, you don't tolerate bullshit anymore. And, you know, one of the biggest things to remember is you're a blessing in people's lives. So when I talk about, you should work on your soul family and pick people that raise your vibration, recognize that you do that for others. You raise their vibration. Stacey, you raise people's vibration. When they're around you, they feel it. It's important to recognize the impact your energy and your vibration has. Let people get to know this new version of you. Let them make a decision whether they like your vibration or not. And if people leave your world, if they can't, if let's say, you meet them regularly and typically there'd be lots of kind of gossip and you don't resonate with that anymore, but actually you still meet them because you have for years. Honestly, asking yourself, who are you helping? So there's sometimes this spiritual journey is about making some tough decisions. But it's like when you get to know and meet this new version of yourself, you're going to love him or her. So Stacey, what would be your advice to people who are struggling with this? Is just, I've really kind of done some work on myself and I can feel my personality changing, but I'm worried about hurting the people around me. Because I have that conversation with clients all the time. It's like, I love what I'm doing, but I'm hurting the people around me. And I'm like, I love reminding people that it's not our job to stop other people's pain. And the way I help people is if you think about the pain that you've been through and how much you've grown and expanded from it, why would you want to stop other people growing from that same pain? But what would your advice be to Stacey for people anyone that's struggling with kind of doing the healing work and the impact it has on others and the fact that they're going to be changing?
Well, I believe when you're really doing the healing work, you're not concerned about what you're losing because there's so much to gain when you're really in it. I know as empaths, a lot of us can feel other people's stuff, and that can be hard. But I believe when you're really on the healing journey and you're peeling away the layers, you are so relieved to not be in pain anymore that you're willing to accept whatever is, even if it means losing people. Once you've found yourself, that is everything. That is everything. From that space, when you're healing and growing and shifting, from that space, you can make more empowered decisions. You bring more powerful people into your life as far as aligning with who you are. There's just so much beauty in being healed, healing. I shouldn't say healed, in healing, because we're always continuing to heal and grow.
I love it. I love it. One of the things I did in the last time we recorded it is I said one of my favorite poems. I read it outright. I'm going to do it again. Is that I mentioned that that one line, are you willing to disappoint another to be true to yourself? That comes from one of my favorite poems. It's by Araya, the Mountain Dreamer. It's called The Invitation. And anyone that's a regular listener or maybe a client may have heard this before, but I feel like it's really appropriate for this topic. It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for, and if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. It doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you risk looking like a fool for love, for your dream, for the adventure of being alive. It doesn't interest me what planets are squaring your moon. I want to know if you touch the center of your own sorrow, if you've been opened by life's betrayal, or have become shriveled and closed off from further pain. I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without moving to hide it or fade it or fix it. I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own, if you can dance with wildness and let the ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes without cautioning us to be careful, be realistic, remembering the limitations of being human. It doesn't interest me if the story you're telling me is true. I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself, if you can bear the accusation of betrayal and not betray your own soul. if you can be faithless and therefore trustworthy. I want to know if you can see the beauty, even when it's not pretty, every day, and if you can source your own life from its presence. I want to know if you can live with failure, yours and mine, and still stand at the edge of the lake and shout to the silver moon, yes. It doesn't interest me to know where you live or how much money you have. I want to know if you can get up after the night of grief and despair, weary and bruised to the bone, and do what it needs to be to feed the children. It doesn't interest me who you know or how you came to be here. I want to know if you stand in the center of the fire with me and not shrink back. It doesn't interest me where or what or with whom you've studied. I want to know what sustains you from the inside when all else fails. I want to know if you can be alone with yourself and if you can truly like the company you keep in the empty moments. I just love that. I mean, I feel like it's a powerful thing to just kind of connect to and feel that in your soul. It's called The Invitation by Araya, the Mountain Dreamer. Stacey, you've heard that one line from me, I'm sure, thousands, maybe even more. Are you willing to disappoint another to be true to yourself? How does that feel to you?
I've always thought it was a very powerful quote and something that really resonates with me. And I think something that a lot of people can find challenging. So super helpful to read that poem. Thanks, Nims.
So, Stacey, as we come to the end of the episode, I'm going to ask you: is any journal prompts that come to you into your heart? Anything you want to share before we start to close?
I would take a little bit of time with your journal to maybe reflect on your healing journey and how you've changed. Maybe travel back 6 months or a year, or maybe you need to go back further. Think about who you were in that season, and then take a little bit of time to appreciate who you've become and how you've shifted and changed. And then I think it's really important to think about who you have around you at this time and acknowledge those people that have stuck with you as you've shifted and changed and grown. Just do a little bit of reflecting. Allow yourself the space to process this journey that you've been on. I find that journaling is such a powerful tool, and I really encourage you to sit with your journal through this process, especially if this is something that you're struggling with.
I love that. You know, having an honest conversation with yourself in the mirror and just like Stacey was talking about is so powerful. And it's important to remember that the version of you that maybe you're mourning, the version of you that maybe people remember with, rose tinted glasses, or even you do. Remember that version of you doesn't exist anymore. It's like healing opens a door. It increases your awareness. But once you've opened that door, it's open. So know that version of you doesn't exist. But again, you've grown so much. So why would you want that version of you to be there? Because healing doesn't make you more of who you were. It allows you to become this version of yourself. And healing changes you many times completely. You get reborn, which is why we talk about reborn, rebirth so often, because that's what we're going through. You do the healing, you start shifting, and you're a soul having a human experience, and that human experience is about releasing those versions of you, doing the healing. And by the way, this human experience doesn't have to be all pain. You can have some fun too. You're allowed to laugh. You're allowed to experience life. Get to know you. Have fun with yourself. And the people that understood the old version of you maybe love that old version of you, and they may love this version of you, or they may never fully understand this new one. And that's not on you. Remember, that's not failure. That is transformation. We're going through so much shifting right now. Your soul is ready for it. The humans sometimes struggle. So as we close out this episode, we love what we do. So if we can help in any way, maybe you're ready for spiritual mentorship, reach out, book a free discovery call. We love what we get to do. By the time this episode comes out, just under 2 weeks, I'll have a retreat in Glastonbury. So if you're in the UK, reach out. I'd love for you to join. You get lots more healing. You get lots more of my energy over 3.5 days. But so many other things to do. I mean, I have a membership group which is super healing. I know Stacey has a Facebook group. Kashi Records, we do a beautiful joint process in an individual too. We love what we get to do. Full Moon webinars coming up on May the 31st. So that's the full moon. It's a blue moon, which when once in a blue moon, I'm sure you heard that. It's basically 2 full moons in the same month. But yeah, we love what we get to do. Stace, as always, thank you for being here. Thank you for persevering, moving to a new location, so we can actually record this episode, and the Wi-Fi worked. So
yeah, we did it successfully.
When we did call in our guides multiple times, so we've got to thank them too.
Yes.
I mean, they're so thank you, team on both sides.
Yes.
But, yeah, so hopefully Stacey will be back next week. So people got to experience my voice solo for a couple of weeks, so hopefully you enjoyed that too. But yeah, we're sending you so much love and light, and we'll be back very soon. Thank you, and bye for now.